Imagine a disease so ruthless, it tore through golden thrones and shattered kingdoms, without mercy, without discrimination. Syphilis didn't care about crowns or titles. It destroyed the bodies and minds of some of history's most powerful royals, hiding secrets behind palace walls that no one dared speak aloud. In this episode, we unravel the dark stories of 5 royals whose deadly secret would bring down empires and haunt their legacies forever. Imagine a disease so ruthless, it tore through golden thrones and shattered kingdoms, without mercy, without discrimination. Syphilis didn't care about crowns or titles. It silently spread through the opulent halls of palaces, infecting some of history's most powerful royals. Behind their regal portraits and beneath the silk sheets, it left broken minds, ravaged bodies, and shattered legacies. Our story begins with Luís I of Portugal, born in 1838, a prince destined for comfort, not the crown. When his elder brothers died suddenly from a devastating outbreak, Luís found himself thrust into the throne amid chaos. Known for his charm and love of literature, he translated Shakespeare's plays. Luís was also a notorious playboy. His many affairs were the talk of the court, especially his scandalous liaison with actress Rosa de Lima. But behind the scenes, Luís's life was crumbling. His young wife, Maria Pia of Savoy, adored him publicly, yet privately their marriage was a battlefield. Luís's infidelities were endless. In this tangled web of desire and betrayal, Luís contracted syphilis, a silent, creeping killer that would soon consume him. For years, the disease lay dormant, hidden beneath his regal facade. But by 1887, it surged back with terrifying force. Luís developed neurosyphilis, a brutal stage attacking his brain and nervous system. Depression, seizures, mood swings, it all tore apart the king from within. The once brilliant scholar and charming prince faded into a shadow, dying in 1889 at only 50 years old, his silent suffering a royal tragedy few ever witnessed. Next, we travel back to 17th century Persia, where Abbas II inherited the throne at just 9 years old. Unlike a puppet ruler, Abbas grew into a commanding force. By 15, he had ousted his father's grand vizier and taken full control of the Safavid Empire. His reign began with promise. He avoided costly wars with the Ottomans, claimed victories against the Mughals and Russians, and ruled with a surprising fairness and tolerance. But behind the throne, Abbas had a darker side. He was a man of excess, addicted to luxury, wine, and women. His infamous parties were legendary, filled with music, dancing, and goblets overflowing with ruby-studded wine. Despite all this splendor, the empire's economy was crumbling beneath his feet, a pressure he tried to drown in hedonistic indulgence. His enormous harem included many enslaved women taken from conquered lands. Somewhere in this chaotic life, the deadly syphilis infection took hold. By 1666, at just 34, Abbas's body was breaking down under the ravages of late-stage syphilis. His once vibrant health was gone, replaced by despair and decline. The empire he had fought to preserve began to crumble alongside him. That same year, Abbas too died, his life and reign cut short by a disease that spared no one, no matter their power or prestige. This tragic tale of rise and fall is a stark reminder. Beneath the glittering crowns and silks, deadly secrets festered, destroying even the mightiest from within. Now, let's turn to Emperor Rudolf of Austria-Hungary, born into royalty in 1858 with the weight of an empire on his young shoulders. His childhood was far from gentle. Torn from his sister and raised by a harsh tutor, Rudolf grew up haunted by trauma and instability. As a young man, he sought escape in heavy drinking and reckless affairs, a dangerous rebellion against the constraints of royal life. At just 23, Rudolf was married off to Princess Stephanie of Belgium, a union arranged more for politics than love. But even before their marriage, Rudolf's dark secrets shadowed the court. He famously introduced his current mistress to his fiancée during their engagement. As their life unfolded, tragedy struck. Rudolf contracted gonorrhea and syphilis, unknowingly passing the deadly infections to Stephanie. The consequences were heartbreaking. Doctors misdiagnosed her illness as a stomach flu, but in truth, her fallopian tubes were irreparably damaged. Stephanie could never bear another child. Betrayed and furious, Stephanie turned away from Rudolf, seeking solace in the arms of a Polish count. Rudolf's despair deepened, spiraling into madness. He begged his mistress to die with him. She refused, and he turned to a young noblewoman, Baroness Mary Wetzera, who was infatuated with him. On a cold January day in 1889, their lives ended in tragedy at Mayerling Lodge. Mary was found shot in the head. Rudolf had taken his own life hours later. To preserve royal honor, officials claimed Rudolf died from an aneurysm, but the truth was far darker. Disease, madness, and despair had destroyed the future of an empire. This tale of power, secrets, and destruction reveals how syphilis not only ravaged bodies but tore apart families, kingdoms, and legacies. At number 2 on our list is John Wilmot, the infamous Earl of Rochester, the original bad boy of Restoration England. Born in 1647 into nobility, John inherited his title at just 11 years old after his father's heroic death in war. Taken under King Charles II's wing, he quickly gained a reputation, not for statesmanship, but for wild living and scandalous behavior. By the time he was 13, John was already at Oxford, where tales of his debauchery spread fast. After graduation, he toured Europe, soaking in Enlightenment ideas, and likely contracting more than a few diseases along the way. Back in England, his charm won him a wealthy bride, Elizabeth Mallet, but scandal followed him everywhere. When Elizabeth's family opposed the match, John and his mother kidnapped her. Though the plot failed and John was imprisoned in the Tower of London, he was later released and redeemed himself as a war hero in the Second Dutch War. However, his return to London meant a return to excess. He rejoined the infamous Merry Gang, a notorious group of nobles famed for wild parties and licentious affairs. His romantic escapades included a long affair with the actress Nell Gwyn, who later became King Charles II's mistress, and Elizabeth Barry, another mistress and mother of his child. John's sharp wit and biting satire made him a celebrated poet, but his reckless lifestyle was catching up. When he mocked the king's obsessions in a play, he was banished, taking on the persona of Dr. Bendo, a quack fertility doctor who often disguised himself as a woman to gain access to young wives. Many pregnancies followed, likely from him. By age 33, syphilis had ravaged his body and mind. His nose rotted away, his vision failed, and he lost control over his limbs. In 1680, John Wilmot died blind, incontinent, and broken, a tragic end for one of England's most notorious figures. Our last story takes us to Emperor Joseph I of the Holy Roman Empire, born in 1678 with the weight of one of Europe's most powerful thrones resting on his young shoulders. Raised amid grandeur and endless expectation, Joseph was surrounded by the finest minds, artists, and, inevitably, countless women. Pleasure was woven into the fabric of his life. Lavish parties, secret affairs, and scandalous indulgences became his escape from the pressures of empire. But behind the glittering courts and royal splendor, a darker truth was unfolding. Joseph's mother, Empress Eleonora, sought to secure the dynasty's future by arranging his marriage to Wilhelmina Amalia of Brunswick-Lüneburg, a serious and devout woman 5 years older than Joseph. Their union was a grand spectacle, designed to unite powerful houses and produce heirs. For a time, the court hoped for peace and continuity. Yet Joseph's relentless appetite for pleasure could not be tamed. Despite his wife's devotion and attempts to build a family, Joseph continued to pursue countless affairs. From peasants to noblewomen, his indiscretions rocked the court. One lover, the daughter of a palace gardener, allegedly became the source of a hidden, deadly secret, syphilis. The disease crept silently into Joseph's life and then into Wilhelmina's. Naive and pious, she believed her illness was a spiritual failing, not a brutal infection. The disease robbed her of fertility, shattering hopes for a healthy heir. Their son Leopold's death in infancy only deepened the tragedy, a grim reminder of the devastating cost of secrets behind palace walls. Meanwhile, Joseph's political career faltered. Years of war without victory, endless court scandals, and his declining health combined into a perfect storm. His reign, once full of promise, became marked by exhaustion and failure. On his deathbed at the age of 32, Joseph vowed to remain faithful, a promise he would never fulfill. His early death in 1711 left the Habsburg legacy fragile and uncertain. The future of one of Europe's greatest empires now rested in the hands of his younger brother, but the shadow of disease and despair lingered. This tale is a stark, haunting reminder that no crown, no matter how golden, can shield its wearer from the ravages of hidden afflictions. Syphilis tore through the flesh of kings and queens alike, silently destroying bodies, families, and empires, a dark stain beneath the glitter of history.